The stars shifted and twisted as the Velena ships dropped out of hyperspace. 40 vessels, all of them damaged, all of them dying slowly. Inside those ships were the last survivors of an entire civilization. 40,000 souls who had nowhere left to run. Commander Arian stood on the bridge of the Wandering Hope. Her hands gripped the railing as she stared at the view screen. There, hanging in the darkness of space, was a blue and green world. Earth. She had heard stories about this planet. The humans who lived there were new to space travel. They had only been discovered faster than light travel 60 years ago. Most of the galaxy barely noticed them. But right now, Earth was the only hope the Velena had left. Behind Arian, her crew moved quietly through their tasks. The bridge was supposed to have 20 people working here. Now there were only 8. The others had died during the long flight. Some from injuries, some from sickness, some simply gave up and stopped eating. Arian closed her eyes and remembered her home world. Valara was once beautiful. Crystal oceans that glowed at night. Cities that floated on anti-gravity platforms. Gardens that stretched for hundreds of miles. Then the Corax came. The Dominion wanted R's resources. When the Velena refused to surrender, the Corax burned everything. That was 3 generations ago. Since then, the Velena has run. They fled from system to system, always one step ahead of the Corax fleets. But the Dominion was patient. They hunted the Velena across the galaxy like predators, chasing wounded prey. One by one, the refugee fleet ships broke down. One by one, they lost people. Now only these 40 ships remained, and they were dying, too. Commander, we are being hailed. Her communications officer said his name was Khalees and he looked too young for his uniform. Most of their experienced officers were dead. Put it through, Arian said. The view screen changed. A human appeared on it. He wore a dark blue uniform with silver markings. His face was serious but not unfriendly. This is Captain Henry Walsh of the United Earth Nation Ship Defender. You have entered the Sol system without authorization. Please state your intentions. Arian straightened her uniform. She had prepared this speech for weeks. Captain Walsh, I am Commander Arian of the Velena people. We come in peace. We are not warriors or traders. We are refugees, the last survivors of our species. For 3 generations, we have fled from the Corax Dominion. They destroyed our home world. They hunted us across the stars. We have nowhere else to go. She paused, feeling her throat tighten. We ask for shelter, a place to rest, time to rebuild. We have little to offer except our labor and our gratitude, but we are desperate. You are our last hope. Captain Walsh's expression did not change, but Arian thought she saw something soften in his eyes. Commander Arian, please maintain your current position. I need to relay your request to Earth's government. This decision is above my authority. We understand, Arian said. But please hurry. Our ships are failing. We have limited food and medical supplies. Many of our people are sick, acknowledged, Walsh said. I will make sure they know the urgency. Defend her out. The screen went dark. Arian sat down heavily in her command chair. Around her, the bridge crew looked at her with desperate hope in their eyes. Now we wait, she said quietly. The waiting was terrible. Hours turned into days. Theer ships drifted in space. Their engines shut down to conserve power. Inside those ships, people rationed food that was already too scarce. The medical bays overflowed with sickness and injuries. Children cried from hunger. The elderly closed their eyes and did not open them again. Arian walked through the corridors of her ship every day. She needed to see her people. She needed them to see her still fighting, still hoping. But it was getting harder. In the lower decks, families huddled together for warmth because the heating systems were failing. In the medical bay, Dr. Van worked without sleep, trying to save people with equipment that barely functioned. Commander Van said when Arian visited. His hands were shaking from exhaustion. We lost 12 more today, mostly children and elderly. I cannot keep doing this with what we have. Hold on, Arian told him. Just a little longer, but she did not know if she believed her own words. On the 3rd day, the message came. Arian was trying to sleep when Kel called her to the bridge. She ran through the corridors, her heart pounding. This was it. Yes or no. Life or death. On the view screen was a human woman. She had grey hair and wore formal clothing. Her face was kind. Commander Arian, I am Secretary General Linda Martinez of the United Earth Nations. I speak for all of humanity. Arian held her breath. Your request for asylum has been reviewed by Earth's governments, Martinez continued. We have debated and discussed. Some argued we cannot afford to help. Others worried about bringing conflict to our system. But in the end, we decided that these concerns do not matter as much as doing what is right. Martinez leaned forward slightly. Commander Arian, on behalf of Earth and all humanity, we grant you and your people asylum. You are welcome in the Sol system. We are preparing a home for you right now. Arian felt tears streaming down her face. Around the bridge, her crew members were crying, too. Some laughed. Some hugged each other. Kelra sat at his station with his head in his hands, his shoulders shaking. Thank you, Arian managed to say. Thank you. You have saved us. We will never forget this. Martinez smiled. You will be guided to a location called Kepler Station. It is an orbital habitat between Earth and Mars. We built it years ago, but never populated it. It will be your new home. Our ships are already on the way with supplies and assistance. We are in your debt, Arian said. No debt, Martinez replied. When someone needs help, you help them. That is all. Welcome to the Sol system, Commander. Welcome home. The transmission ended. For a long moment, nobody spoke. Then Arian stood and addressed her crew. Send word to all ships. We have been granted asylum. We are safe. After 3 generations of running, we can finally stop. Cheers erupted across the bridge. Across all 40 ships, the news spread like fire. People who had given up hope suddenly found it again. Parents held their children and cried with relief. The elderly smiled and thanked the stars, but Arian knew this was just the beginning. The Corax would not stop hunting them just because they reached Earth. The Dominion did not forgive. They did not forget. Sooner or later, they would come. She looked at the blue planet on her view screen. Earth seemed so peaceful, so beautiful. She hoped humanity understood what they had just agreed to by sheltering the Velina they had made. Themselves targets. But for now, none of that mattered. For now they were safe. They had shelter. They had hope. They had found humanity. The Velina fleet approached Kepler Station slowly. Arian watched through the view screen as the massive structure grew larger. She had seen orbital habitats before, but this was different. This was enormous. A ring of metal and glass that sparkled in the sunlight, rotating slowly to create artificial gravity. It looked like it could hold hundreds of thousands of people. It is empty, Klee said, reading his sensors. The entire station. They built all of this and never used it. And now they are giving it to us, Arian said softly. She could not quite believe it. As their ships docked with the station, Arian saw something that made her stop and stare. Human ships were already there. Dozens of them. Construction vessels, cargo haulers, transport ships. They swarmed around the station like bees around a hive. When Arian stepped onto the station for the first time, a human was waiting for her. He was tall and broad-shouldered, wearing work clothes covered in grease stains. He smiled and extended his hand. Commander Arian, I am Jake Morrison, construction supervisor. Welcome to Kepler Station. Arian carefully took his hand. Human handshakes were strange to her, but she had studied their customs. Thank you, Mr. Morrison. This station is incredible. Call me Jake, he said. And you have not seen anything yet. Come on, I will show you what we are doing. He led her through the station. Everywhere Arian looked, humans were working. They were installing new life support systems, building walls and rooms, and setting up power generators. The noise was incredible. Welding torches sparked. Heavy machinery rumbled. People shouted instructions to each other. We are modifying everything for your biology, Jake explained. The air mixture, the water filtration, the temperature controls. We brought in xenobiologists to make sure everything is safe for you. This must be very expensive, Arian said. Jake shrugged. Probably. But that is not my problem. My problem is making sure this place is ready for 40,000 new residents in 3 weeks. 3 weeks. I stopped walking. That is impossible. You have not met human construction crews. Jake grinned. We work in shifts 24 hours a day. When one team gets tired, another team takes over. We will get it done. Over the next few days, Arian watched in amazement as the station transformed. The humans worked with incredible speed and efficiency. But more than that, they worked with care. They did not just build functional spaces. They built a home. When Jake learned that Velana people loved gardens, he immediately ordered plants brought from Earth. Soon entire sections of the station bloomed with flowers and trees. When he learned that Vena children needed certain types of lighting, he had special lamps installed in all the residential areas. "Why are you doing all this?" Aaron asked him one day. "You could build something simple and functional. This is far more than we need." Jake stopped working and looked at her. "Seriously? You are not just refugees passing through. This is your home now. And a home should be a place that makes you happy, not just a place that keeps you alive." Arian had to turn away so he would not see her cry. But the construction was only part of what humanity did. Medical ships arrived carrying supplies and personnel. Dr. Karen Hughes was one of the first to come aboard. She was a specialist in alien biology, and she brought equipment and medicines that the Velana desperately needed. She worked with Dr. Vin, the Velana physician, learning everything she could about Velana physiology. Together, they modified human medicines to work safely on Velana biology. They calibrated diagnostic equipment. They established treatment protocols. In the third week, disaster struck. A virus spread through the Velana children. It was something from their own biology, made worse by the stress and malnutrition of their long flight. Children started collapsing. Fever spiked. The Velana medical staff panicked because they had no way to treat it with their limited supplies. Karen did not panic. She worked for 60 hours straight, barely eating, never sleeping. She ran tests. She analyzed data. She tried different combinations of medicines. Arian watched her work, saw the determination in her eyes, and understood that this human doctor would not give up. Finally, on the third day, Karen found a treatment that worked. Within hours, the children started recovering. Within days, the outbreak was over. When Arian thanked her, Karen just smiled tiredly. "This is my job, keeping people healthy. It does not matter what species they are." The Velana people moved into their new homes. For the first time in 3 generations, they had enough space, enough food, enough safety to think about the future instead of just surviving. Today, children attended schools that human teachers helped set up. Adults found work helping to maintain the station or working with human engineers on various projects. Artists started creating again, making beautiful pieces that blended and human styles. The station filled with life and hope, but the peace did not last long. The message arrived on a Tuesday morning, Earth time. Arian was in a meeting with Jake discussing plans to expand the agricultural section. When Secretary General Martinez called her, "Commander, we have received a communication from the Corfax Dominion." Martinez said her face was serious. "They know you are here." Arian felt her blood turn cold. What did they say? They claim the Velana people are subjects of the Dominion. He escaped property that must be returned. They are demanding we hand you over immediately. And what did you tell them? Arian asked, though she feared the answer. Martinez's expression hardened. "I told them that the Velana people are under Earth's protection, that they are free beings, not property, that we do not negotiate with slavers and conquerors. They will come for us," Arian said quietly. "The Corfax do not accept defiance. They will send their fleets." "I know," Martinez said. "We are prepared for that. Earth does not abandon those who seek shelter with us." After the call ended, Arian sat in silence. Jake looked at her with concern. "They are going to fight for us," Arian said. "Humanity is going to go to war with the Corfax Dominion because of us. Would you prefer we hand you over?" Jake asked. "No, but I do not want you to die for us either." Jake stood and walked to the window outside. Kepler Station gleamed in the sunlight. "You see all this? Everyone who lives here now is worth fighting for. You asked us for shelter. We did not just give you a roof. We gave you a home and we protect our homes." News of the Corax threat spread quickly. On Earth, governments mobilized military forces. Ships that had been in dock for repairs were rushed back into service. New ships under construction were completed ahead of schedule. The entire human military machine geared up for war. But something else happened, too. Regular people on Earth learned about the Velana refugees. They saw footage of the children who had almost died from the virus. They heard stories about the 3-generation flight from persecution. They saw images of families finally finding peace on Kepler Station. Public support for protecting the Velina was overwhelming. Protests erupted in cities across Earth, not against the coming war, but demanding that their governments do more to help. Donations poured in, supplies, money, support. Ariane received thousands of messages from humans she had never met. They welcomed her people. They promised to stand with them. One message came from a human child written in careful handwriting. "Dear Velina friends, do not be scared. My dad is in the Space Navy. He will protect you. Welcome to our solar system." Ariane kept that message. She put it on her wall where she could see it every day. 3 weeks after the Corfax threat, the first warships arrived at Kepler Station. Not to attack, but to defend. Earth's military established a protective perimeter around the station. Captain Henry Walsh, who had been the first human to greet the Velina, commanded the lead ship. He sent a message to Ariane. "Commander, my orders are clear. Nothing gets through to Kepler Station. Nothing. You and your people are safe now." Ariane looked out at the human warships surrounding her new home. She thought about Jake, working day and night to build them a beautiful place to live. She thought about Karen, refusing to sleep until she saved the children. She thought about all the humans who had opened their hearts to complete strangers. The Velina had asked Earth for shelter. Humanity has given them so much more. Admiral Peter Collins stood on the command deck of the UN Valiant and watched his fleet take position. 53 warships surrounded Kepler Station in a defensive formation that had taken weeks to perfect. Each ship knew its role. Each captain understood the stakes. Collins was 62 years old. He had served in Earth's Navy for 40 years, but he had never commanded a fleet preparing for a battle like this. The Corax Dominion had conquered dozens of species. Their military reputation was terrifying. They had never lost a major engagement, but Collins had advantages the Corfax did not know about. Human engineering had taken some unusual paths. While most species focused on energy weapons and shields, Earth had perfected kinetic weapons to an art form. Railguns that could accelerate projectiles to incredible speeds. Missile systems with guidance computers that could think and adapt. Point defense networks that could track thousands of targets simultaneously. The question was whether it would be enough. "Admir, long-range sensors are picking up hyperspace signatures," his tactical officer reported. "Multiple contacts, very large." "Here we go," Collins said quietly. "Sound general quarters. All ships to battle stations across the fleet." Alarms blared. Crews rushed to their positions. Weapons systems powered up. Shield generators hummed to life. The Corfax fleet emerged from hyperspace like a wall of metal and menace. 20 warships, each one larger than anything in Earth's fleet. Their hulls were dark and angular, covered in weapon ports and armor plating. They moved with the confidence of predators who had never known defeat. The lead ship broadcast a message. A reptilian face appeared on every screen in the human fleet. His scales were deep red, and his eyes were cold and cruel. "I am Worm, Master Draken of the Corax Dominion. You are harboring escaped subjects of the Dominion. You have 1 hour to surrender them to us. If you refuse, we will destroy your station and every ship defending it. This is your only warning." Admiral Collins opened a channel back. "This is Admiral Peter Collins of the United Earth Nations. The beings you call subjects are free people under our protection. Your demand is denied. If you approach Kepler Station, we will defend it with all available force. This is your only warning." Draken's laughter was harsh and mocking. "You think your primitive vessels can stop the might of the Dominion? You will learn the cost of defiance." The channel closed. Collins looked around his bridge. His crew was tense but focused. "Good. All ships weapons free. Engage at will when they enter range." The Corfax fleet advanced. They did not bother with tactics or deception. They simply came forward in a straight line, their weapons charging, confident in their superiority. The first Corax ship accelerated ahead of the others, its massive plasma cannons glowing with building energy. Captain Henry Walsh, commanding the UEN Defender, moved to intercept. The Defender was smaller than the Corax vessel, but it was fast. Incredibly fast. It had experimental inertial dampening systems that let it maneuver in ways that should have been impossible. As the Corfax ship fired its first salvo of plasma bolts, the Defender twisted and accelerated, the deadly energy passing through empty space where it had been moments before. Then the defender fired back. Not with plasma or lasers, but with railgun projectiles. Solid tungsten rods accelerated to a significant fraction of light speed. The Corfax shields designed to absorb and dissipate energy weapons did nothing against solid matter traveling at relativistic velocities. The projectiles punched through the Corfax ship's hull like it was paper. Secondary explosions rippled across its surface as the rods tore through vital systems. In less than 30 seconds, the massive Corax warship was a tumbling wreck, atmosphere venting from dozens of holes. On his flagship, War Master Draken stared in disbelief. One of his heavy cruisers was destroyed in seconds by a ship half its size. It was impossible, but there was no time to process what had happened. The rest of the human fleet opened fire. Missiles launched in massive swarms. Not simple ballistic weapons, but smart missiles with advanced guidance systems. They dodged and weaved through space, evading point defense fire, coordinating with each other to overwhelm defenses. When Corfax ships tried to shoot them down, the missiles split into multiple warheads, each one independently targeting weak points in the enemy hulls. More railgun volleys followed. The human ships moved in coordinated patterns, firing from multiple angles, never staying still long enough for the Corfax to get a solid lock. It was like watching a pack of wolves attack a herd of much larger animals, using speed and coordination to overcome size and strength. The Corax fought back with everything they had. Plasma cannons roared. Particle beams lashed out. Their shields held against most attacks, and their armor was thick. When they scored hits on human ships, the damage was devastating. The UN Courage took a direct hit from a plasma cannon and simply ceased to exist, vaporized in an instant. But for every human ship destroyed, 2 Corfax vessels were crippled or destroyed. The battle was not going the way Draran had planned. All ships focus fire on their command vessel, Collins ordered. Bring down that flagship. Every available weapon in the human fleet turned toward Draken's ship. Railgun rounds hammered its shields. Missiles swarmed around it like angry insects. The Corfax flagship's defenses were formidable, but under such concentrated fire, they began to fail. Draran felt his ship shudder as a railgun round penetrated the failing shields and tore through the hull. Alarm screamed. His crew shouted, "Damage reports. Engines are failing. War Master. We have hull breaches on multiple decks. Weapons at 50% capacity." Draran looked at his tactical display. Half his fleet was destroyed or disabled. The humans were still fighting with the same intensity as when the battle started. His intelligence had been completely wrong. These were not primitive warriors. These were skilled, determined defenders fighting for something they believed in, and they were winning. "Order all ships to retreat," Draran commanded, the words bitter in his mouth. "Fall back to hyperspace jump distance." But War Master Aster the Dominion does not retreat. The Dominion does not lose entire fleets either. Draken snarled. "Retreat now." The surviving Corax ships turned and fled. The human fleet pursued them to the edge of the system, then stopped and let them go. There was no glory in destroying fleeing enemies. On the Valiant, Admiral Collins allowed himself to breathe again. "Damage report. 4 ships lost, sir. 7 more with heavy damage. Kepler Station is untouched." Collins nodded. 4 ships, for crews, hundreds of people dead. But they had protected the station. They had protected the Velina. "Signal all ships. Well done. Begin rescue operations for any survivors, including Corfax crew. Send medical teams to the damaged vessels." On Kepler Station, Arian had watched the entire battle. She stood in the command center, her hands gripping a railing so tight her knuckles turned white. She had seen the human ships destroyed. She had seen people die defending her people. When the Corax fled and the all-clear signal sounded, she sat down and wept. Not from fear, not from relief, from overwhelming gratitude and terrible guilt. Lieutenant Sam Parker found her there an hour later. He was a young security officer assigned to the station. His uniform was clean, but his eyes showed the strain of watching the battle. "Commander Arian, are you okay?" "People died for us today," she said quietly. "Humans I never met. They died protecting people they barely know." Sam sat down beside her. "That is what we do. When someone needs protection, we protect them. When someone needs help, we help them. It is not complicated." "But why? You gain nothing from this. You lose ships, lives, Resources. Why would you sacrifice so much for strangers? Sam thought for a moment. My grandfather told me something when I was young. He said that civilization is measured by how it treats those who cannot protect themselves. Any species can be strong. Any species can conquer. But it takes real strength to defend those who cannot defend themselves. That is what separates the good from the bad. Aryan looked at him so young, so certain of his convictions. I wish more of the galaxy thought like you. Maybe they will, Sam said. Maybe seeing Earth stand up to the Corfax will inspire others. He was right, though neither of them knew it yet. Across the galaxy, other species had watched the battle. They had seen the mighty Corfax Dominion defeated by a young species that most had dismissed as insignificant. They had seen humanity choose compassion over caution, sacrifice over safety, and some of them began to wonder if they could be brave, too. 3 months after the battle, Kepler Station had transformed into something beautiful. The Velena people had stopped simply surviving and started truly living. Gardens bloomed throughout the station, mixing Earth plants with carefully preserved Velena species. Markets opened where people traded goods and shared food from both cultures. Children ran through the corridors playing games that mixed human and traditions. Lieutenant Sam Parker walked through the main residential area, amazed at how much had changed. When he first arrived at the station, it had been a place of quiet desperation. Now it was alive with energy and hope. He was meeting his friend Turin at their usual spot in the observation deck. Turin was a Velena engineer who had helped design the station's new power systems. They had met during the Corfax attack working together in the command center and had become close friends since then. Turin was already there staring out at the stars. His skin had a healthy glow now, nothing like the sickly grey it had been when the Velena first arrived. You look much better, Sam said sitting beside him. Enough food and actual medical care will do that. Turin replied with a smile. My daughter asked me yesterday what it was like on Valara. I realized I could barely remember. All I remember is running. Tell me about it anyway, Sam said. The parts you do remember. Turin's eyes grew distant. Far had oceans made of liquid crystal. During the day, they would catch the sunlight and scatter it into rainbows. At night, they would glow with their own light. Our cities floated above them on anti-gravity platforms. We had gardens that hung in the air connected by bridges of light. It sounds incredible. It was, but it is gone now. Sometimes I am angry about that. Sometimes I just feel sad. But then I look at my daughter playing with human children, learning in schools that teach her things I could never have taught her during the flight, and I think maybe we can build something new, something different, but still beautiful. Sam nodded. You know, before all this, I thought humanity's purpose in the galaxy would be exploration or trade or science. I never imagined it would be this, giving shelter, building homes for others. Perhaps that is a better purpose, Turin said. But the peace they enjoyed was fragile, and both of them knew it. Intelligence reports from Earth's long-range scouts painted a worrying picture. The Corax Dominion was gathering ships, not just a battle group this time, but a true invasion fleet. They were preparing to make an example of Earth and everyone who stood with them. Secretary General Martinez called an emergency meeting of Earth's governments. The discussion was heated. Some leaders argued that they should negotiate with Corfax. Others insisted that Earth should evacuate the Velena to some distant hidden system. A few even suggested that the cost of protection was too high, but the majority disagreed. The footage of the battle had been broadcast across Earth. People had seen the Corfax attack. They had seen Earth's forces defend innocent refugees. Public opinion was overwhelmingly on the side of continued protection. Martinez made her decision. Earth would not back down, but they would not face the Corax alone. Ambassador Nicole Grant was given a mission. She would travel to worlds across the galaxy, meeting with governments who had suffered under Corfax aggression. Her goal was simple: convince them to join a coalition against the Dominion. It was a difficult task. Many species had bent the knee to the Corax out of fear. They remembered what happened to those who resisted. Their worlds burned, their populations enslaved or exterminated. The Dominion was ruthless in punishing defiance. But Nicole had a powerful argument. She showed them footage of the battle. She demonstrated that the Corfax could be beaten. She offered them something they had not had in a long time: hope. I am not asking you to sacrifice your worlds, she told the Talanari Council on their frozen home world. I am asking you to stand with us in mutual defense. Together we are strong enough to resist. Alone, We all fall eventually. The Telenari had lost 3 colony worlds to the Corfax. Their military had been devastated in those defeats. But their ambassador, an elderly female named Cass, looked at the battle footage with tears in her eyes. "You fought for beings you barely knew," she said. "Your people died protecting refugees. We thought such compassion was extinct in this galaxy." "It is not extinct," Nicole replied. "It just needs to be given a chance to grow." Slowly, carefully, the coalition of free worlds was born. Species who had submitted to the Corfax began to find their courage again. They started building ships, training soldiers, preparing for the day when they would no longer bow to the Dominion. Back on Kepler Station, Arian was elected as Premier of the Velena people. It was their first election in 3 generations. The ceremony was held in the main plaza, and both Velena and human dignitaries attended. In her acceptance speech, Arian spoke words that were broadcast throughout the station and across Earth. "We came to this system broken and desperate. We expected at most bare survival, a place to wait and hide until the Corax found us again. What we found instead was something we thought no longer existed in this galaxy. We found compassion without conditions. We found sacrifice without expectation of reward. We found people who believe that defending the helpless is not a burden but an honor." She paused, looking out at the crowd. Felina and human faces looked back at her. Humanity did not just give us shelter. They gave us back our future. Our children will play in the gardens again. Our artists create beauty again. Our scientists think about tomorrow instead of just surviving today. And for that we will stand beside Earth now and always. When the Corax come again, and they will come, they will find not just human defenders. They will find Velena standing shoulder to shoulder with the species that gave us a home. The applause was deafening. True to her word, Arian began contributing to Earth's defensive preparations. Velena scientists shared their knowledge of advanced energy systems. Velena engineers helped improve human ship designs. Velena technicians worked alongside human crews, installing new technologies that made the fleet faster and stronger. The relationship between the 2 species deepened. It was no longer protector and protected. It was a partnership. It was friendship. In the workshops, Jake Morrison worked with Velena architects to design expansion modules for the station. In the medical bay, Dr. Karen Hughes collaborated with Dr. Van on treatments that would work for both species. In the security offices, Lieutenant Sam Parker trained with Velena guards, learning their techniques while teaching them human tactics. One evening, Sam and Torren sat in the observation deck again, watching construction crews work on the new defensive platforms being built around the station. "Do you think we can win?" Torren asked. When the Coraxes came with their full fleet, Sam was quiet for a moment. "I think we have something they do not have. We are not fighting to conquer. We are fighting to protect. We are fighting for our homes, for our families, for our friends. That makes us stronger than any number of ships." "I hope you are right," Torren said. "Because the Corax are bringing 200 warships. Our intelligence confirmed it yesterday." Sam felt a chill run down his spine. 200 ships. That was 10 times what they faced in the first battle. Even with the coalition forces, they would be outnumbered. "Then we will have to be 10 times smarter," Sam said, trying to sound more confident than he felt. Across the galaxy, the Corfax fleet was gathering. High Commander Vex personally oversaw the preparations. He was a strategic genius who had never lost a battle. The humiliation of War Master Draen's defeat burned in every Corfax heart. This time there would be no mistakes. This time Earth and its pathetic refugees would be crushed completely. But Vex did not know about the coalition. He did not know about the new technologies the Velena had shared. He did not know about the determination of beings fighting to protect their home. He would learn soon enough. The warning came at dawn, Earth time. Long-range sensors detected massive hyperspace signatures at the edge of the Sol system. 200 Corks warships, the largest fleet the Dominion had ever assembled for a single target. At their head was the flagship of High Commander Vex, a massive dreadnought called the Absolute Victory. Admiral Peter Collins received the report in his quarters. He had not slept well knowing this day was coming. Now it was here. He dressed quickly and headed to the bridge of the Valiant. "All stations, this is Admiral Collins. The Corfax fleet has arrived. Execute evacuation protocols. All civilian ships are to proceed to the outer system immediately." Across the Sol system, the evacuation began. Ships carrying families, children, elderly, and non-combatants fled toward the outer planets. Mars opened its underground cities to refugees. The orbital platforms around Jupiter prepared to receive thousands of evacuees. Earth itself went on high alert, its planetary defense systems powering up. At Kepler Station, the Velina faced a choice. They could evacuate with the other civilians. Admiral Collins had even ordered ships specifically to transport them to safety. But when the vote was held, the result was unanimous. They would stay. This was their home. They would defend it. Ariane stood in the station's command center, coordinating with Admiral Collins. Beside her were Velina engineers, tacticians, and volunteers who had trained for this moment. "Commander, you should evacuate your people," Collins urged. "This battle is going to be brutal. With respect, Admiral, we are not leaving. The Corfax came here because of us. We will face them." Collins looked at her for a long moment, then nodded. "Very well. Your people will coordinate point defense for the station. Do not let anything through." "Understood, Admiral, and thank you for everything." The human fleet took position. 97 warships, including the newly commissioned vessels that had been rushed into service. They formed a defensive sphere around Kepler Station, each ship knowing its role, each crew ready to fight. But they were not alone. As the Corax fleet began its approach, new hyperspace signatures appeared. 50 ships from Coalition species emerged from hyperspace and took position alongside the human fleet. Talanari cruisers, Fenty destroyers, Morath carriers, species that had cowed before the Corax for decades now standing together in defiance. High Commander Vex watched from his flagship with cold satisfaction. Even with their reinforcements, the defenders were outnumbered more than 2 to 1. He had studied the previous battle carefully. He knew the human tactics. He had prepared counters for everything they might try. All ships advance in wall formation. Vex commanded. Overwhelming firepower. Crush them. The Corax fleet moved forward as a solid wall of metal and weapons. It was an intimidating sight designed to break enemy morale before the first shot was even fired. Admiral Collins watched them come. "All ships hold position. Let them enter the kill zone." The Corfax came closer. Closer. Their weapons charged, glowing with deadly energy. At the edge of Mars orbit, they would be in range to begin their bombardment. "Now," Collins said quietly. Space erupted with fire. Hidden among the asteroids and moons of Mars were automated defense platforms. Hundreds of them were built in secret over the past months. They had been disguised as debris and rocks as abandoned satellites. Now they are activated simultaneously. Railgun batteries opened fire from every direction. Missile pods launched massive salvos. The Corfax wall formation designed to maximize forward firepower suddenly found itself taking fire from above, below, and both flanks. Ships exploded. Shields overloaded. The perfect formation broke apart as Corfax commanders tried to respond to threats from multiple directions. But Vex was no fool. He adapted quickly. All ships break into attack groups, flank their positions, and focus fire on their capital ships. The battle devolved into chaos. The Corfax fleet split into smaller groups, each one trying to outmaneuver and overwhelm the defenders. The human and coalition ships responded with the tactics they had drilled for months. Fast attack runs, coordinated fire, never staying still long enough to be an easy target. Captain Henry Walsh commanded the UEN Liberty, one of the newest ships in the fleet. His orders were to protect Kepler Station at all costs. When a Corax heavy cruiser broke through the defensive line and made a run toward the station, Walsh moved to intercept. The Corfax ship was larger, more heavily armed, and its shields were stronger. In a direct fight, the Liberty would lose, so Walsh did not fight directly. He used Jupiter's gravity well to accelerate his ship to incredible speeds, coming around the gas giant in a slingshot maneuver that his crew barely survived. He emerged behind the Corax cruiser, his weapons already firing. Railgun rounds tore into the enemy engines. The Corfax ship tried to turn to bring its weapons to bear, but it was too slow. Walsh fired again and again until the enemy cruiser's engines exploded and it began tumbling toward Jupiter's crushing atmosphere. On Kepler Station, Lieutenant Sam Parker and Torren worked side by side in the defense center. They coordinated point defense systems, targeting incoming missiles and fighters. The station shields held against most attacks, but some got through. Then the alarm screamed a different warning. Boarding pods. The Corfax were trying to take the station by force. Sam grabbed his weapon. "Torren, Stay here and coordinate defenses. I will handle the borders. I am coming with you, Torren said firmly. This is my home, too. They ran through the corridors together, human and Velena soldiers following them. The Corax had breached the outer hull in Section 7. Sam and Torren reached the breach point just as the first Corax warriors emerged from the pod. The Corfaxes were terrifying warriors, tall, heavily armored, armed with plasma weapons. They had conquered dozens of species. They had never lost in close combat, but they had never fought defenders protecting their home. Sam and Torren led their forces with desperate courage. The corridors became killing zones. Every corner was defended. Every junction was held. The Corax advanced, but they paid for every meter in blood. A Corax warrior nearly killed Sam, its plasma rifle aimed at his chest. Torren tackled the warrior from the side, his smaller frame somehow knocking the larger being off balance. Sam fired and the warrior fell. We protect each other, Torren said, helping Sam up. Always, Sam agreed. The fighting was brutal, but the defenders held. Not a single Corks warrior made it past the first junction. The boarding attempt failed. In space, the battle raged for hours. Ships on both sides were destroyed. Brave crews made sacrifices to protect others. The void filled with debris and the silent screams of the dying. But slowly, gradually, the tide turned. The coalition forces fought with a fury born of generations of oppression. The human ships used tactics the Corfax could not predict. And at the center of it all, Kepler Station stood untouched, a symbol of what they were fighting for. High Commander Vex watched his careful plans fall apart. He had lost more than half his fleet. The humans and their allies were still fighting with unfinished intensity. His own flagship was damaged. Systems failing across multiple decks. This was impossible. The Dominion did not lose. The Dominion had never lost, but they were losing now. All ships retreat, Vex commanded. The words bitter as poison. The surviving Corax vessels turned and fled. The human fleet pursued them to the edge of the system, ensuring they truly left then stopped. In the aftermath, rescue ships searched for survivors. Medical teams worked around the clock treating the wounded. Engineers assessed damage. The cost had been high. 23 human ships were destroyed. 15 coalition vessels lost. Thousands dead. But Kepler Station stood intact. The Velena were safe. Earth had won. Admiral Collins sat in his command chair, exhausted beyond words. His uniform was torn and blooded. His ship had taken heavy damage. But they had won. Arian contacted him from the station. She looked as tired as he felt. Admiral, I do not know how to thank you. Your people gave everything to protect us. You are not separate from us anymore. Collins said, you are part of us. When one of us is threatened, all of us respond. That is what it means to be human. And you are human now in all the ways that matter. On Earth, celebrations erupted in every city. Not because they had won a war, but because they had saved lives. Because they had stood for something important. Because when refugees came asking for shelter, humanity's answer had been a resounding yes, backed by courage and sacrifice. The news spread across the galaxy. The mighty Corks Dominion, defeated twice by a young species and their allies. Species that had submitted to the Dominion out of fear, began to reconsider. If Earth could stand against them, maybe others could, too. The coalition of free worlds grew stronger. More species joined. More fleets were built. The age of Corfax domination was ending. On Kepler Station, Sam and Torren stood in the observation deck watching the sun rise over Earth. The station had some damage, but repair crews were already working. In a few weeks, it would be as beautiful as before. Better even. Do you think they will come back? Torren asked. Maybe, Sam said. But if they do, we will be ready and we will not be alone. Torren nodded. I have been thinking about what you said about civilization being measured by how it treats those who cannot protect themselves. I think humanity has taught the galaxy an important lesson. What is that?